Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all an update to my Hexaorb Cardfight Vanguard Overdress deck profile for post-awakening of Chakrabarthi. This deck has been getting a lot of support, and I'm very surprised compared to the 5 main decks. This deck definitely does have a good amount that just adds more and more to the playstyle of the Hexaorb deck, which is to focus on just stacking the top of your deck with different criticals and front triggers to then utilize and gain additional abilities based on which ones you reveal and when. Hexaorb Sorceress also benefits from the Persona Ride, which you can easily do with some of the searchers we got from the previous pack, and then we just got more added backup support in set 4 that definitely does help with the deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the Ride deck. The first of it is the starter, Tri-Connect Sorceress, just the standard when rode upon. If you went second, draw a card. The grade 1 is Tier Square Sorceress. You never really call these cards to rear guard, so we'll ignore the plus power effects on rear. But on your Vanguard, when rode upon by Pentagleam Sorceress, you counter plus 1 and draw a card. So just straight up draw power. It's very, very useful just to keep hand consistency. The Pentagleam Sorceress, when it is rode upon by Hexaorb Sorceress, you look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, put them on the top of your deck in any order. This will set up the triggers needed for Hexaorb Sorceress, which we are also running maximum copies of. So the 1 of the copy in the Ride deck, and then the 3 additional copies in the actual deck. This is just for the Persona Ride. Like I said, it is very, very important that you Persona Ride to get the full abilities of Hexaorb Sorceress. You also have search power in the form of Totris from the previous pack to do so. When you drive check reveals a trigger unit, choose one of your rear guards. It gets plus 10,000 till end of turn. And on Vanguard, once per turn, if you Persona Road this turn, counter plus 1, soul plus 1, reveal up to 1 critical or front trigger from your hand. Put it on the top of your deck, and this unit gets drive plus 1 till end of turn. So it's not really a minus, it's not really a plus, but it's more of a setup, because not only will you then get the plus 10 from the trigger and the additional card ability, you will also get the plus 10 from Hexaorb Sorceress's first ability. So you have that to rely on, and the additional 2 cards that you will reveal for the drive check being hopefully other triggers that you either set up with your Pentagleam Sorceress or anything else in the deck. The added backup grade 3, I used to run a lot of other support that was meant for like Bastion and then just other generic support, but we did get a pretty good backup grade 3 that was meant for Hexaorb, and that is Twinned Great Magic to Tone. On rearguard at the end of the battle that your unit attacked, counter plus 1, and perform all of the following according to the trigger units revealed in the battle of that drive check. If you revealed a critical trigger, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and put it on the bottom of their deck. And if it's a front trigger, choose one of your grade 2 or less rearguards and stand it. So that stand power means you can attack with your other units and have a stand power based on just what you revealed, because you should know what you're revealing with a good number of those drive checks thanks to Hexaorb Sorceress. This card just gives you so much support. It's definitely useful. Being able to even stand the grade 2 or less rearguards you have set up with this card, so sadly you can't stand to Tone herself, but you do have the option then, if you reveal the critical, to take out some of your opponent's other cards. And that's it for the grade 3s. We'll move on to the grade 2s. The grade 2s, the only one that stayed the same was Exquisite Knight Olwen. When this unit is placed on rear, if your Vanguard's Hexaorb Sorceress, you Soul Blast 1, look at 2 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 2 cards from among them, put them on the top of your deck in any order, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. This card, being a rare, just has immense setup compared to some of the other ones we've had. And with its second rear guard, when your drive check reveals a trigger unit, counter plus 1, and this unit gets plus 10,000 to end of turn. Putting it at a plus 10 additionally with any other power you'll get from the triggers, this card could be hitting for 30,000 alone with that trigger and its own card skill. And with it, you also have the setup needed to help with setting up the triggers on the top of the deck for Hexaorb. The second grade 2 that I run in the deck, and the last of the grade 2s, is also 3 Yearnful Magic Esunono. On rearguard, once per turn, when this unit attacks, if your Vanguard is Hexaorb Sorceress or Pentagleam Sorceress, discard a card from your hand, look at 2 cards from the top of your deck, choose up to 2 cards from among them, put them on the top of your deck in any order, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order, and this unit gets plus 10,000 until end of turn. So for just a discard, you have more of an actual setup reliability that other grade 2s we had in the deck really weren't providing. And this is just a common, that's why I'm so surprised and really do like this card in the deck. It's just such more of a consistency. It's once per turn, so if you re-stand her and with cards like Tatone and try to attack again, you can't reuse the skill, but you do have the option for just that initial first setup that you, if you didn't reveal or use any other cards, and because you don't have the Counter Blast or the Soul Blast, this card just requires a discard 1, which with this deck definitely being able to hold on to hand consistency comes in handy a lot more than I thought it would. So that's why I prefer running this over some of the other grade 2 options we've had for the deck also. And that is it for the grade 2s. Moving on now to the grade 1s. I'm running 4 of the new recurring magic, Lalarita. On rearguard, at the end of your battle, your drive check revealed a trigger unit. If your Vanguard is Hexaorb Sorceress, you counter +1, soul +1. Choose one of your other rearguards and stand it and retire this unit. So this gives you the option to restand Totone. With this having Totone be able to restand your other rearguard, you can get 5 attacks off in total with this deck. And that's definitely what the deck needed for the pressure. You provide all this plus 10,000 power with your Hexaorb Sorceress to your front row units with either the front triggers or the critical triggers. You need those multiple attacks to be able to attack with your first 2 rear guards and then attack with Hexaorb, potentially restanding as long as you get those triggers. Puts it on par with some of the restand power that Bastion also delivered in its deck, just with the retire of a card and not so much relying on grade 3s, but more relying on just getting that trigger unit. I still also run the 4 Diaglass Sorceress, more setup early game as well. When placed from hand, if your Vanguard is Hexaorb Sorceress or Pentagleam, counter +1, discard a card from your hand. Looking at 2 cards from the top of your deck, choosing up to 2 from among them and calling them to rear, and putting the rest on the top of your deck in any order. So if you want to save the critical or the front trigger or the heal, you can do so with this card, and then just call out any other resources you may need to the field, whether they be ones that you could just set up later for your restand power, you name it. This card's still a 4 of for sure. And for more search power, running the 4 Magic of Revelation, Totris. This is in the deck for more search power. You need the Persona Ride. This card doesn't get off half of its skills if it doesn't have the Persona Ride. So when this unit is placed on rear, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, counter +1, search your deck for up to 1, Hexaorb, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. So you want to activate this the turn you go into your first ride deck, Hexaorb, so you can at least then have the next one for the following turn, if you don't have it already in your hand, ready to go for the Persona Ride. And the last of the grade 1s that I run in the deck, just 4 of the Aegismare Dragon, the Sentinel for Keter Sanctuary. I say it in every video, but very, very strong, just because if you guard with it and you only have 1 other card in your hand, even if it's the Sentinel, you don't have to pay the discard cost, giving you the guard for that and 1 other attack your opponent may try to dish out against you, especially if it's a critical one, the going for game. Moving on now to the trigger units. For the triggers, criticals and fronts are obviously needed in the deck. So we're running 4 Blade Feather Dragon, having a skill of the +2 and putting into the soul, and 3 of the White Fang Witch Disma. I just find it the most fitting, being, looking more like the Oracle Think Tank and Genesis units that this deck is heavily based on. And for the front trigger, that's why we're not running the new draw. The draw does nothing in this deck. You just need the fronts. 4 of the Bard of Heavenly Song I'll pack. When you need this card for all the reveals, whether it be for the different card abilities you can get with Totone or your critical trigger reveals, you have all the ratios down thanks to this. And then also the 4 heal trigger, once again fitting off of the Magus theme with Circulating Sorceress. And also the 1 Light Dragon Deity, Martinoa. This card just gives you that much more consistency. We don't run as many grade 3s anymore. We still have the Totone option if we do reveal it for then additional drive checks for your rear guards. But still, this card is just really that good for all that pressure it can provide, even with some of the restanding we can do thanks to Hexaorb now. Restanding rear guards even after we reveal this. And that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I love updating Hexaorb. I built it when the first set was released. Loving the support up till now even. Curious what we'll get in the future as well for this deck, just how they can make it that much better. If we get a grade 4 Hexaorb, that would be insane. I'd like to see what they do with it. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.